Let's roll. This is Countercharge, your podcast for ranks, flanks, and kings of war. Join your hosts as they delve into the world of Panithor and bring you worldwide coverage of all things Kings of War.
I'm Steve, and welcome to Countercharge.
And I am Jeremy Duvall. Welcome! I'm so excited to have Steve on the show. Been a minute, Steve, as we were saying before we were recording, as we have our video cameras on, which is an essential part of radio, right? We have a little bit more gray in the beards. We still got Star Wars toys, though, so we're still living our authentic lives. But how are you, Steve? Have you had a chance? And I know this from just recently hosting Masters. Have you had a chance to rest and recuperate post-Clash? Was it after Clash right on to family life, or how have you been the last few days?
So no is the simple answer. I haven't had a chance. So post-Clash is very much tidying up Clash for me. So I've had kind of a week, and I'm back to work, right? So I had Monday off, which was kind of just recovering and sleeping a lot. And then it was just kind of trying to tidy and organize all the stuff that I'd bought back. And so I finally kind of near to the end of it now. I'm kind of surrounded. So on the floor next to me is a pile of stuff that I need to mail to people. This is the final bits for me to close Clash of Kings 2025. So it's all the people that couldn't make it but ordered something. So like an XL goodie bag or a piece of clothing that I forgot to pick up, or a little bit of lost property that I need to mail. So I've got a pile of those, and then I can close finally Clash of Kings 25. But then for me, it's on to organizing Masters, because for some reason I'm a masochist. So I just I organized Clash of Kings with my amazing team. And then with the amazing Masters committee here, I'm also doing Masters here, which is due January 19th. So we just need to start getting cracking on organizing that one. But version 4 is kind of occupying my attention at the moment. I'm kind of full in on the hype train for version 4. How about you?
Yes. Did you do any playtesting? I couldn't remember. If you were,
I did not.
Oh, so it's all super exciting and news.
I have no idea. So I have some friends who did the play testing. So the people that I love and trust here in the UK are fully involved in play testing and not telling me anything, which is very rude of them, frankly. But no one ever asked me to play test stuff for some reason. It's possibly because I'm not very good at the game. I think possibly I'm just good at talking. That's all I have, Jeremy. My mouth.
It is. Well, it's a very important part of the anatomy, right? So that going
depends. Have you been playtesting it?
So a little bit. Unfortunately, the last big playtest push was in the few weeks before Masters, and as you know, running the biggest event in the world, right? We had 100-ish, so not near you, but I think once you reach the triple digits, that's a lot of people. So we spent a lot of time just the last few weeks of that was just absolutely crazy. But we did a lot of testing, me and Kyle Timberlake. We did a lot of testing sort of in the beginning when they were really just throwing stuff at the wall to see what would stick.
The wild days.
Yeah, the wild things, right? Because I think that's where you start when you're playtesting something new. You start with all the crazy ideas first. And then you over the months and weeks, you slowly kind of restrain yourself or pull you back and find that nice little middle ground.
So I was talking to a couple of the guys that were playtesting it here, and a similar story. They kind of said that, Alessio's first version was completely mad, and they just kind of spent then the next few months while you guys were doing Masters kind of in weekly calls, kind of refining it, bringing it down, kind of quite intense level, kind of Facebook chats through kind of different rules, iterations. But I think it sounds to me, we had John Quayle's been quite involved in the testing, as I understand, and he was Clash of Kings, and he just said, look, guys, it's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. That's kind of what he said, where it's at the moment. So he's relatively happy with where it's got to, I think. And I've signed up. There's a playtest on the 5th of October, which I'm really excited for. So They asked us in the UK if you guys want to sign up for a playtest, the first playtest of 4th edition, formal playtest. Come to Mantic headquarters on the 5th of October. So I signed up for that, and we're waiting for the army list to be sent to us so we can test out the new battalion-based army selection system, which sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, because I think that was one thing Ronnie spoiled or talked about at Clash, right? Was there is a different style of creating army lists now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of aimed, probably it's like mimicking the Warpath system. I don't play Warpath, so I don't know, but kind of like reducing some of the spam, maybe, kind of, which to be honest is one of the final niggles of 3.5. I want to say. So people say that 3.5 is pretty much Goldilocks. It's kind of it's not too big, not too small. It's just right. It's just right at the minute. But one of the big problems is spam lists people complain about. So, people just cut and pasting the same unit. And there was a bit of that Clash, not a great deal. And to be honest, the spam list didn't do that well. I've got to say, I think the main problem is that spam lists aren't fun for inexperienced players to play against, right?
I mean, they're really difficult to navigate around in the space of balance, because at the high end, the top players are gonna have strategies on how to deal with it. But maybe the newer players or less experienced players who are not going to have a fun time. I think it's an interesting system, and it does sort of within the milieu of the firefight. Yeah, the firefight system. So I always love it when game systems have DNA threads or chromosome threads between game companies between their different game systems. And I love Firefight. I mean, I think Firefight's one of their best designed games. I'm excited to see what people think. And in the end, it always comes down to change is always hard, right? No matter what you do. So some people love change, some people don't love change. So I think in this new version, there's going to be certain things that people love, certain things that certain people don't love. For me, it still captures the spirit of the game, which is something that's easy to approach, but that the depth is still there. And I think that's very much still the core philosophy. And I think the people who play tested, I always say this about Kings of War playtesting, they have the right people, I feel. They have the people who care about it. They have a nice variety of people, from, those who don't know Kings as well to tournament players, because I don't think necessarily you can play test a game system with only tournament players, right? You got to have, don't you think you need feedback and opinions from the wider population to make a game system maybe that's going to appeal to, try to appeal to everyone on some level?
Oh, 100%. You know, tournament players are a special breed, right? And there's a variety of them. It's fair to say, I think, tournament players come in all shapes and sizes. And
that's true. Yeah.
Clash of Kings is a great example of that, where we have brand new players who never played a game before, all the way through to the very highest quality of player, right, from across the world. I think when you're testing a game, you have to remember that the vast majority of Kings of War players don't play tournaments, right? It's only a very special selection do. Even the ones that do, there's a range between them. What you really need is some casual players who just kind of want to knock a list together and do some ranks and planks because it reminds them of their childhood, right? And that's what we don't want to lose, is people who, we don't want to make the game unapproachable in the name of balance, right? Balance is good. It makes it more fun for two people to just pick up a beer and pretzel game and just kind of push armies across and know that their skill matters. But it's equally important that you don't want people to be able to net list their way to victory no matter what. You look at the old world where I think Bretonians, is it, that just win every tournament. Like the top 10 is Bretonians. There's no question, right? Mm-hmm. Look at the top 10 Clash of Kings. They're all different lists. There is not a single repeat. And that speaks to the balance. I posted a poll on Kings of War Fanatics today, just because my wife asked me the question, which has been the best edition for you to play? I only played second and third and 3.5, kind of same. Yeah. And I posted the first, and overwhelmingly, everyone's voted third edition, best edition yet. Maybe that's recency bias, I don't know. But I think that to me kind of speaks to trust in the process we have for Kings of War, is the game is getting better and better and better. So my hopes are really high for version 4. It'll probably be some whinging and some rage quitting and some, I'm leaving, I'm going to go play whatever. Fine, bye, goodbye, go. Yeah. But actually, the game is getting better and better. And I think the only, we can only go upwards, right?
Yeah, and sometimes, through an evolution of something, you may have 3 steps forward, a step back, 3 steps forward. So I think we've seen that in the evolution of our game, is that it's a trajectory, right? The graph is not always straight and up and to the right. Every now and then we have a dip and something gets fixed. But the point is the historical momentum of the game has been towards this system that people love. And, you go back to second edition and there was still just crazy wonky stuff happening. And I think you don't want to completely lose that because we're not playing chess, right? And I think the hardest, and that's where you get the spectrum of players, right? Is how much skill deterministic outcomes do you want to have in a game, right? So the hardcore tournament players, they only want that, right? They want as little variance as possible. But in the end, we're playing a game with dice. And you need some of that, right? I think that I think players need to have a punching chance to beat their opponents. If you go up against someone and there's absolutely no chance I could ever beat this person. I mean, I don't know if that's creating an ecosystem that's very engaging. So I think there needs to be some thread of that wildness or a little bit of it, nothing crazy, right? But I think if we become too obsessed and having everything completely balanced, I think we lose some of the magic that you get in dice-based games. So I think we want to have a little bit of that, but it's trying to find that, find that happy middle ground.
Yeah, Andre, you need to have hope, right? And you sat there and go, come on, please double one, please double one, please double one, right? Or I need double six right now. That kind of like joy of live by the 4, die by the 4 when you're rolling the dice. And I think that's, otherwise people would never play goblins. Right, I've started a goblin army because I'm an idiot, and I was playing against my friend. He's playing all like nearly defense 6 dwarves, and I'm just there like live by the 4, die by the 4. I died by the 4, as it turns out, because can't roll 4s. But that's the fun of it, really. I've played a bit of chess, and I'm, as it turns out, not clever enough to play chess. But it's a hugely popular game because it's deterministic, right? It's you can calculate your way out of chess. You can't necessarily calculate your way out of Kings of War.
But like you said, we saw it at Masters too on our side as a real variety of lists, lots of crazy stuff, but we still had someone who win Masters, first time, repeat master, Tom Robinson, right? UK Clash champion, probably, I think, the best player in the world, full stop.
Tom's won Clash now 4 times. So he's the person, he's won Clash of Kings more. So previously, it was really interesting because I was, we have a shield, a Clash of Kings shield, where we put the winners on. And previously, I just put the Clash of Kings winners since I started running on it. But I've just added plates for the historic winners because I think it's important we reflect the history. The first 3 years of Clash of Kings were won by Dan King. Absolute dominance, 2013 through 2015. The guy absolutely, nobody could beat him. And then Tom won in 2016. Since then, it's been a variety, but Tom has now won 4 times, so he's stolen Dan King's record. He's been over to the US a couple of times, and he's not won the tournaments, but Tom's got a habit of A, massive jet lag, and B, boy, does that guy like to drink. So he's been over there really hungover and jet lag, and he's struggled. So Jeff Shilton beat him at Adepticon. I was on the table next to them, and I heard him win, and Jeff went, okay. Then I win. And Tom literally went, have you? Oh, shit. Yeah, you have.
We've all been there too, right? We think we're in a better spot than what we are. And the game ends and your opponent's like, oh, well, that was good. And they're shaking your head. You're like, wait a minute. What happened?
But the funny thing about Tom is that, so Tom's an amazing, genuinely amazing player. He doesn't really play Kings of War anymore. He mainly plays Kill Team, right? But he can still rock up and just dominate the field. However, having said that, he did win a couple of his games by literally a dice roll or a hair's breadth. So I think his dominance, he is a fantastic player and really right up there. He's right up there with the Shiltjins and who's the guy that won Masters twice this year?
Adam Ballard.
Adam Ballard. So he's up there with the Ballards, right? And who's the Australian master that wins everything?
Jeffrey Trache.
Jeff Tracy, right? So these guys are their special brain people. And I generally think Chris Lynch, who's the UK number 1, is of a similar brain, right? Yeah. These guys, they just think differently. Super, super bright people, very, very good at the game, very confident because they played so many games, right? Those kind of people are very special. But I think Tom is a level above. I think he really is generally one of the best players in the world. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to unforced errors, right? I think the
Mm.
better you get in player, the less errors they make. And if they do make a mistake, it's very rare. So their games really come down to how did the dice look? Did my opponent make any mistake? But that's what I've noticed at the very highest level is they don't give you anything that they're not aware of, right? You're not going to have a situation where it's like, oh crap, you are in my flank. You know what I mean? Which like we have happen all the time. It may not happen at that high level. They just have that. Like you said, it really does come to repetition, and you'll have that sometimes. Like even the best players, the year that they won like a Masters, or the year that they do well is a year that they really put the work in, right? And there's so many. We live in a world of so many great miniature games right now, which is another thing. It's hard to devote yourself if you just love tabletop gaming. Devote yourself to only one game system. I think that is tough too, right? There, whether it's video games, card games, or other tabletop games, there's so much fun to do. It's hard now that Kings of War has been around for a decade and more, to devote yourself only to that one game system.
I absolutely. So the last year's master in the UK is a fantastic Polish chap called Radoslaw Bralowski, and he lives in the UK now, Radek. But he's the Malifaux master as well. So he plays Malifaux and he plays Kings of War. And what he's brought is a really interesting new way of playing Kings of War. He brings lists that you look at it and you think this list has no way of winning. No, it's absolute nonsense what he's brought, right? Yeah. It's like an MSU silly list with stupid characters, and it's got, all this stuff in it. And then he just absolutely, I played him. The guy just schools you. And he's so nice about it, so irritating. I'm not saying he's just pleasant, right? He's like, and now I win. You're like that. Yeah, well, I like you, but absolutely get effed, right? So it's just like, so this, despite the fact the dominance of people like Adam and Tom, I think there are still new faces and ways of playing coming in, which makes it really exciting to be part of the miniature gaming community, because there's still so much more to learn.
When Kings was newer, right, we knew who everyone was, right? But now I think as it evolves as sort of its own ecosystem, right? People have gone, people have come back, people, new players have come. That's one of the things we found most interesting in our show, is like looking at who comments and where, a viewer participation. It's no longer always just the same voices. Yeah. Was that your sense over the last couple years running Clash, as some familiar faces, but also maybe speak a little bit to that sort of the new faces? Has that been sort of a thread in the narrative of Clash of new players coming in and out?
Yeah, so absolutely. So we're very lucky in the UK. We've got a really very healthy scene, right? So it's been relatively static between last year and this year. I think when people are waiting for the new edition, but there's always new players, right? There's new people that come up and say, oh, this is my first time at a tournament. This is my first time doing this, so on and so forth. And we've got, my local club has a bunch of new players who are excited to get into the game and really keen. So, and there are new players. There are old players dropping off. So Nick Williams has said that he's going on to play different games. So I think the north of our country is possibly slightly less burgeoning with new players. But then, having said that, it's different enclaves, right? So it's like more. I think the way I see it is there's more casual players are coming in. It seems that in the past, Kings of War attracted a very fervent, dominant, very competitive tournament scene. For me now, I see a lot more casual, players that are keen on the game, but they're maybe a bit more keen on the lore, and they're more interested in playing an army that they think is interesting rather than one that's going to just smash face. That's the kind of player I'm seeing coming in now. So the newer players that we see coming at Clash are more interested in the hobby, making a nice army, making an army that really thrills them, playing the game and enjoying it, but aren't so wild about just crushing face and destroying people.
A healthy ecosystem in a game is just like a healthy ecosystem in real life. You can't have it just full of all apex predators, right? You need to have the lovey, happy, cuddly teddy bears and the little butterflies, along with the giant T-Rexes eating. If you just have an ecosystem of just one style, of just that hardcore player, I don't know that necessarily speaks to the overall health of a community. I think our mission has always been, as community leaders in Kings of War, is how do we create a space that can fit both those be welcoming to both those groups.
I think I feel, I was feeling a little bit negative earlier in the year, being 100% honest, about where Kings of War was going. I felt like the game was dying a little bit. I felt like we're losing, some of our impetus. I think it's always when you go to Clash and you're surrounded by people who are as excited about the game as you are, and everyone, we've got a new edition coming and there's new lore, and there's we had Kings of War authors fully cosplaying as the characters from their book, playing Kings of War. It was just really fun. It was a really great, fun kind of spirit. It's really re-energized me to think, actually, do you know what? I don't think it is dying. I think we're just all ready to step into a new frontier. I don't know what's going to happen with Fourth. I don't know if we're going to see a drop or a gain, but overall, I'm still really, really happy to be involved in the community and keep being a part of it. I think my pessimism has evaporated, I think, over the last few weeks, for sure.
Well, and that's what a good event can do, right? It can really change your outlook and change. And that's why, we always recommend people go to tournaments, is not just for the experience itself, but what it can do as far as refilling the hobby batteries, right? Getting that mojo back. I know. I just wonder sometimes, is there a clock on mass combat, rank and flank style gaming? Like that we always say, right? The niche within the niche within the niche is sort of that, because I felt a little bit of that pessimism too over the last year. And I just wondered, is that not directly related to Kings, or is that just the game style that I love, that rank and flank mass and combat gaming? Is that in and of itself just starting to become less popular? It seems like so many of the newer game systems are all around, oh, you only need 5 or 6 models, it's a skirmish system, or it's I just wonder if the games where you need hundreds of models, is that just a thing of the past? I mean, I hope not, and I don't think it has to be, but it is a question that I find myself thinking about sometimes.
I think we have to reflect, look around big events like Clash of Kings and Masters, right? Largely male dominated, not 100%, but largely men in their 30s, 40s and 50s, right? So we are people who are willing to put the effort in. And if you look at a 40K tournament, let's say, so 40K or Kill Team requires less painting, less hobby input. It is a similar player base, but they're, I would say, 5 to 10 years younger. Right. So the principle is that, we grew up playing. Oh, I didn't, but as a kid, I painted armies. Right. The idea of having enough time, resource, and patience to paint mass battle armies, I think you just need a level of, being honest, level of maturity to do it. Right. And there's not many. So my 9-year-old is really keen to play Kings of War, but he ain't going to sit and paint a whole army with me. He painted a champions force with me. So he did the basic painting and I did the highlighting. Yeah. And that was really fun. We did it together. But he's not going to paint a whole army. But he does love to play the game. And I've got a bunch of friends who play Kings of War whose kids play with them. So we had great experiences at recent tournaments here in the UK where there's been 3 or 4 10 to 14-year-olds playing alongside us, in the tournament with us. And that's the future. These people, these kids who are playing with us, right? So I don't think it's not a death knell. There is fashions in gaming, like everything, right? Yeah. So chess is an enduring game through multiple centuries. Wargaming is a breath in the wind in terms of the history of that. But gaming's always been here. Board gaming's always been here. I look at, we play some tournaments at like historical conventions, and the grognards are sitting around playing their 6mm Napoleonics.
Yeah.
That's it. These vast games, they painted hundreds of figures, so I don't think it's going to die. It may wax and wane, but when it comes down to it, there is no better rank or flank game than Kings of War. There just isn't one. There's nothing to even come close to how good it is in terms of the cleanliness of its rule set and kind of and as it goes on, the lore will deepen and people will really buy into it. So I think at the end of the day, it'll always be here. Sometimes it'll wax, sometimes it'll wane. I think we're at the moment. I felt like at the end of 3.5, we really reached the peak in terms of how good it can be. Maybe there'll be a dip, maybe it'll come up again. But at the end of the day, I'm still, like you always say, Jeremy, at the end of the day, if no one else is playing it, there'll be you and Rob playing against each other in Rob's basement or whatever. Oh, yeah. Right? At the end of the day, right? Yeah.
Rob and
I'll be there.
We'll fly you over. Yeah, we'll transport you over in our teleportation devices. That we'll event at some point. We'll beam you over.
I actually said to my friend Matt, so Matt Gorham, who helps me run Clash of Kings. I've gone too deep, right? We're like hyperfixated people. I've gone too deep. I've got 30 tables of terrain in my garage. What am I going to do with them? What am I going to do with all that Kings? I've got 7 armies. I've got no other hobbies. What am I going to do? So I just have to do this one now. I'm too deep.
Yeah,
right?
it's like ride or die time, right? You become committed, and you may dabble, you may pick your toes in other ponds, but you still know that this is your home base. Kings will always be that. Well, you mentioned hobby. I know you probably haven't had a chance to get much done getting ready for Clash, but are you sort of in that pre-edition, like waiting to see sort of how things tumble out as far as your next hobby projects? Or is there any, plans on your hobby table, or what are you thinking going into fall and the new year?
Oh, hell no. I'm all in. So I'm that kind of idiot. So I'll show you. It's right here. This is a box. You can't, I'm saying showing you. We're audio, but Jeremy can see me. This is a box full of bases that I have pre-made. So this is one that I finished. See my bases? Here they are.
Oh yeah, very cool. So like a cool tree, beautiful flower nature base.
It's like it's like black sand with kind of like, there's stuff on it, right?
Very exotic looking.
Right, and this is a box of primed goblins, right? So literally, apart from that, which is obviously a winglet I've printed. So it's literally one whole. I've printed painted, constructed an entire goblin army based on 3rd edition rules because I'm that stupid that I'm going for it. And so my last tournament I've got, because one of the problems with running Clash of Kings is that the way the rankings work in the UK is you will never qualify for Masters if you don't go to Clash of Kings. It has this enormous impact on the ratings, right? Because basically the top 20 get enough points to act like they come first at massive tournaments, or right up. So I've dropped 10 places in the rankings. Having said that, I can't ever play at Masters because I'm running Masters. However, on the principles of honor, my last chance to do any remotely well in the rankings is to go to a really big tournament called Warfare, which is in the south of the UK. Great tournament run by some fantastic guys, Chris and Mike Smith, and their brother, who's Andy. Yeah, Chris, Mike, and Andy Smith. So the Smith brothers run this tournament, and it's in a huge historical games convention in an aircraft hangar. It's brilliant in Farnborough, and I had a great time last year. So I'm going to paint this army ready to go to that tournament in November, theoretically. So where are we now? The 20th of September. It's the 15th of November. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks to paint an entire goblin army.
Tight.
Easy.
Yeah, easy, right? No problem at all.
Just smash it out, man. Mm-hmm. So I've got 8 weeks to paint a goblin army, and I'm going to is all luggets. So I came up with this brilliant idea for a goblin army, which is 100% fearless goblins. Because what's goblins' biggest problem? Wavering, right?
So before just take that right off the table.
yeah. So before wavering isn't a thing anymore in whatever in 4th edition, I'm going to go an all fearless lugget army. I've got luggets, I've got mincer mobs, and I've got a couple of wingets. They're all going to be Strider, and it's just going to be stupid. So I'm going to do that.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun. So I play tested it on blank bases against a friend, and it kind of works as long as you can roll 4s, which I can't. And I'm gonna be painting a lot of green in the next kind of 8 weeks. So yeah, if I can get these Star Wars figures out of the way.
Continuing the work on the Northern Alliance Ice Elves, and the thing is, and this is my test to see if Rob or Matt actually listened to this episode.
Yeah, they won't. It's fine.
Yeah, is I'm no longer sharing a lot of my hobby progress with them because they always talk so much crap about me. I'm not going to say anything until the end and be all like, "Look at this entire army completed. Screw you guys.
Screw you guys."
Or if I don't finish it in time, it will be like, well, I didn't do it. I didn't share you any updates. So it's creating no expectations at all. So that if I can hit the finish line, it will be a wow factor. But that's been just super fun to paint. I really enjoyed playing that army. And then also I've just loved the ice sort of elf, that whole vibe, Kislev vibe or whatever has always been a cool one. So
man, your ice elementals are just so beautiful.
Thanks.
It's so wild. It's so great. I got a question for you, Jeremy. Sure. Is this so previously you were like, I'm a Twilight King all the way, Twilight King, do my Twilight King with Millies. Yep. And then Matt, who I literally just mentioned, came to play at your tournament with his Northern Alliance list, where he's a very good player, to be fair. He's extremely good, and he won the tournament, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly Duval's working on the Northern Alliance army.
So,
is there a coincidence here?
yes. Well, I would say, just like your countrymen, you put your Sherlock hat on and you're doing some detective work. And his army was beautiful. It looked so fun. He had ice elementals. He had some of the Raven guys. So it really was. In seeing that army at that list, I was like, oh man, this looks pretty cool. And I've always loved the idea of like trying to maybe do like an ice elf I love the half elf berserkers, and I love the elf elements of Northern Alliance. I always thought were underutilized. So we had a talk about it at Bay of Kings, which he won. So he was very much, I got to give credit where credit is due. He did inspire me to start that army. And I love the Twilight Kin. I just found
they're hard to win by. Oh mate, yeah.
And when you do win, it's not the funnest experience for your opponents. So I would have a lot of games where if I would lose, people would be like, man, Twilight can suck. They're way too good. And I'm like, dude, you won. And then if I would win, it'd be like, man, Twilight can suck. So it was like, I'm winning and they don't like the experience. I'm losing, they don't like the experience. So I got to a point where, to me, don't get me wrong, I'm as competitive as they can get. I want to win, but I'm also a hobbyist and I care about I'm one who believe in the social contract, right? Some people don't or whatever, but I believe part of growing our communities, I want to give my opponent a fun experience, whether you win or lose. And the Twilight Kin, I think, are just a little bit, just their inherent design is they want to make you not be able to do what you want to do, which is a total fair play style. But I just was running into people not in my community, not enjoying that so much. So I think there was a lot of threads that made me do the Twilight Kin switch, one of which was to see in the flesh a really cool Northern Alliance army that was using ice elementals, that was using the elves, that was using all the parts of Northern Alliance that I already thought was cool. And hobby-wise was really well painted and well put together. So yeah, and so because that's basically when I was like, oh man, I'm going to try this army. And then I started playing with it and just really loved it compared to the combined armed Basileans, which is just not in the best spot. Yeah. So yeah, you're very smart and astute gentleman, and your theories are bearing fruit, as they say.
I knew it. Well, it's only because I happened to know Matt, and he was like, I met Jeremy, and this and happened. And he was, we were very British, right? So he turned up, and he's an amazing. Matt's just the most genuine, lovely, handsome, sweet guy, right? And you're right, he's the most extraordinary hobbyist. So we at Clash of Kings each year, we the painting awards we give away are we big size Mantic miniatures and we paint them, and Matt paints the top hobby award every year because he's such an extraordinary hobbyist. He's really very, very good, and so the top award is always painted by him. But yeah, and he was like, he felt kind of really embarrassed that he turned up and won. Right, because he's done this before, because he's so good and he barely plays. He just turns up and just wins with these lists. But he was saying it, I was like, and then Duval was like, Duval suddenly switched away from this Northern Alliance list. I'm like, suspicion.
Yeah,
I know what's going on here.
Right.
You've seen this ice elemental BS list, and he's like, this is me, 100%. Yeah. They're awful, aren't they? Here's my 3 hordes of ice elementals. They're going to shoot you, and I'm going to surge into you, and then you're going to die. Enjoy your life. That's it. And
I love that list. I love, after playing sort of, I guess, a more alpha punch you in the face style. I love armies that can do everything in all the phases, right? Like, I have a little bit of shooting, I have some fighting, I have some surge, I have some this. And that's one of the things I love about Northern Alliance. You can make a list where in every phase of the game, you're doing something. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And it has some redundancy. When you play like alpha, you punch and you either kill, and if you don't, you lose. Exactly. I mean, that's if you get stuck, you're done. And I kind of wanted to play a list that had a little bit more redundancy, or that could, they didn't just have one game plan, that could do a little bit. And I just love the idea too, is being sort of like hobby ADHD Northern Alliance. If I ever feel like I want to paint some dwarves, I can paint some dwarves, right? If I ever feel like I want to have some humans, I can paint some humans, So I love that sort of vibe of the Northern Alliance list being multiple factions sort of together. it sounded like a cool list. And right off the bat, like my harem is a tree herder, so Mantic tree herder. So already I was like, oh, what could I take from, other Mantic models and use in Northern Alliance? So it's been a really fun experience. And I don't have anything going on this fall. I'm not playing in any tournaments. So my plan is to just hunker down in the very, very cold California winter of 65 degrees, 68 degrees, which I don't know what that is in your magic Harry Potter temperatures. But
real temperatures, I don't know. I'm gonna look it up.
Our winters here are 65 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe. So pretty warm for your neck of the woods, probably.
18,
I don't even.
Jesus, man, that's not summer. That's like hottest summer. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I may actually have to wear pants and can't wear shorts, when I take the garbage out. So
you can put on a light shirt when you go outside.
A jumper. I got to make sure I have a good jumper on, and
nice.
as they say, but. Yeah, that's my plan, is to work on the Northern Alliance. I have been playing a little bit more MCP, which is Marvel's miniature game, which is super fun. Yeah. One of my good buddies, Jeff Swan, who from the Kings community, is super into that game.
Where is he now? I mean, seriously, Jeff Swan?
Yeah, so he is really hardcore into that scene, playing a lot. So, but, he's interested in coming back for fourth. So that's what I'm curious is. Yeah, so I'm curious to see. It's not just sometimes a new edition. You don't have the people who leave. You have other people who've maybe been curious about returning to the game system, but they're like, oh well, fourth is just on the the horizon. I'm gonna wait till that comes out, see sort of how things shake out. And
that was my favorite. So the Jeff Swan impression, which was I have posed you a question. What's important is how you answer it. The Jeff Swan impression, right?
Sister guy. I mean, I don't even know, man. I take this army. It's so crappy, but man, I just win all the time. People just don't understand.
That's Eric Cartman. I was Jeff Swan there.
I summon too much Eric Cartman when I do Jeff.
I'll ask you a question. Yeah. Ogre hunters, man. Ogre hunters are so great, man. No one even knows.
So that'll be interesting to see him back. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to, and he's now moved to the Colorado area, so he's going to be near Tyler and Garrett and some of those Colorado guys. So hopefully he'll be able to get in on those scenes. Yeah, so I'm just going to be painting. That's pretty much my fall is, I don't have any other tournaments on the agenda. I might try to go to the November Jackalopes tournament in Reno, but that tournament is really dependent on, I have to drive over the mountains, and if it's snowing, I can't go. I don't like to drive in the snow. I'm getting too old for that crap. If the pass is closed to where I have to have chains on my tires, or if it's really bad winter driving, I won't go. So I'm just going to lock myself in and have a nice cozy fall of painting miniatures, which to me is just glorious. I love puttering around in my workshop all day. I can't think of a better purpose-driven day than to be at home with my family, puttering around.
That sounds nice, man. Hey, just remember, we were supposed to be talking about Clash of Kings, but actually we spent, 40 minutes?
I know, seriously. On that note, we will take a quick break, and on the other side, we will get into everything 2025 UK Clash of Kings. We will be right back.
I'm Andy2D6, the Orange Legend, and you're listening to Countercharge. Get ready to charge those counters.
This is Paige from Singapore with the YouTube Battle Report channel Newbie Dice, and you're listening to 战神反击.
And we are back. So, Steve, I'm curious. I know last year's Clash of Kings, big numbers, everything went off really well. But I know, the great organizers, the really good communities are not just looking at what went well. They're also looking at what could I change or what could I do better? Was there anything that came out of Clash last year that in the sort of off season you wanted to take into this year's Clash, or something that worked really well? Or so what was your off season thinking in between last year's Clash and this year's?
Yeah, so it's so last year we had 185 visitors. It was our first tournament so we run it in Nottingham High School. So the first year I ran it was 2023. We ran it in the Nottingham Student Union, which was really cool. But then they shifted their term dates halfway through, so we had to cancel our venue. And so we found the school, which, as it turns out, is the school that Ronnie's children go to. Who knew? He didn't bother telling us that when I was trying to find a venue, but it's fine. So then we ran at Nottingham High School. We loved Nottingham High School. It was a super, super cool time. Everyone had a good time. The biggest problem we didn't have many problems. The biggest problem was Mantic Companion, which just absolutely died on its arse, and caused us enormous. I mean, poor Elliot. luckily, because we live in the Midlands, right? And Elliot lives in the Midlands. He comes every year, and that year it was largely a back end problem to do with scenarios and scoring. But basically, he had to rewrite most of the database overnight. He barely slept between the tournaments. So it was a horrific. And I was kind of like, we can't do this. Mantic Companion's died on its ass for 2 years in a row. This is a nightmare. We can't do this again. It has to work this time. I can't live with a tournament system that just dies, right? And I know Croge has got strong opinions on this, and if he was here, he'd be blue in the face right now. So that was my biggest worry coming into this year. We'd scaled up. We sold 226 tickets this year, and then we had an enormous amount of dropout. 10% dropouts is normal. And we resold some tickets. We ended up just shy of 200 players, 194, I think, at the end of the tournament. We had enough space. We've worked out we've got enough space or enough tables to run about 250 players. There's enough space in the school because they've got another hall for 500 players. Right, so we could run a full 40K style tournament. They had a chess tournament with 1,000 players the weekend before us, right? So it's a big venue. So scaling wasn't so much of a problem. We went from 2 halls to 3 halls. To be honest, Clash runs very, very smoothly because I've got a really, really good team. I'm really obsessive. I literally spend I do it for a year. Everyone gets sick of me because I'm doing this for a year. I want to make it as smooth as possible. I want people to have a wonderful time. So I worked really hard on that. Going between last year and this year, it was mainly scaling it up, trying to make it as good as it could be, trying to make the audio visual stuff work so Ronnie's speech didn't suck. That's kind of it, and that's small stuff, right? So realistically, it was just trying to keep the vibe going and to continue scaling up. That's how we went from year to year. Yeah.
Yeah, how you speak a little bit to that because I think it's really important. How important it is I think once you reach a certain threshold of event, you no longer can run that event by yourself, right? You cannot be a man for all seasons or a lady for all seasons when you get to that player base. So talk a little bit about how important is it having that team or having those people, on your crew to help you run an event of this size?
Oh, it's massive, right? So we have, well, this year it was 7 people helping to run it. 2 of them were playing. We had 5 TOs. I could not do it without them. So I'm fully admit, full disclosure, I'm massively a control freak. I do the majority of the organizing myself just because I just need to have control of everything. Having said that, that's all right? And then really I use the committee through the year as checks and balances to tell me when I'm doing it wrong, what do they think, give me their opinions. And everyone brings terrain. I can't bring all the terrain myself. So we have a huge amount of terrain that comes in from other TOs. On the actual event itself, it's a real team effort. So thinking about, the school has some tables, but realistically, we hire in. I pay £1,000 for tables for people to come in. And then there's a huge team, the crew that comes in, we lay them all out, then everyone's laying out terrain, and then we have to set up the audio visual stuff and the streaming. And then there's all the goodie bags, which is just a monumental. So poor John Fawkes, he gives up his garage to store all the goodie bags between when we pack them all and they go in his garage and he brings them and then we have to distribute them. It's a real logistical exercise. It's like a ridiculous, it's an event, event management. If anyone's ever managed events, that's what it is, right? And trying to keep it going smoothly is very tricky. And, we're supported really strongly by Mantic, which is fine. I want to, shout out to Bias and Joaquin, who's a member of the Mantic team who was on site all weekend as well. The guys were brilliant. So we had a full Mantic shop in the entrance hall. They came and set up their shop, all our stuff. And we set up in, I'm going to say, an hour and a half this year. From last year, it took us 3 hours. This year, everything was just all out, hour and a half. And when we broke down the tournament at the end, we were out. We finished it. We presented awards at 6:30 p.m. By about 7 p.m., we finished the awards presentation. I left the building at 8. All packed up.
Wow.
Everything done.
That's
right?
Crazy. Yeah,
that is
amazing.
Wild.
Yeah.
So huge. Players helped out. It was magic. Really, I walked out from the awards and everything was done. I was like, oh, just my stuff then. So I just collected my bits and bobs and then we were done. everyone's very well drilled now. So we've got a really, really good team, very, very willing, and just a fantastic crew of people. Really, I couldn't thank them enough.
And one thing that you said that stands out to me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, is I look at the events in my country, the ones that have real success and that grow are the ones run by TOs who realize it's not just about getting the pack out a couple weeks before the event it's really a year-long experience, right? A great example is Lone Wolf and Mark Cox. He's talking about that tournament all year round, right? He's listening to ideas. He's recruiting players. But how important do you think that is as far as planning a big like this event? Of really thinking about it during that off season, of promoting it, trying to get people in, thinking about what can you do better. I mean, is Clash really like you kind of spoke to it a little bit, like a year-long experience that you're working on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it really is. Developing the stuff for Clash, I mean, apart from just building terrain, right? So as a group of TOs, we built enormous amounts of terrain over the years. But in terms of theme, colors, it goes down to color schemes, what we're going to present, what goes into the goodie bag. So this year we had, I stole from when I came to Adepticon, I loved the idea of their XL goodie bags they had, right? You could bid for the XL. I love those. It's fantastic. And theirs are like off the scale, sponsored by GW, right? But I thought, surely we can do something really cool here. And so each year we have, a limited number of people can pay for, and then Mantic worked with us to pack them with stuff. So this year we had actual bags, so messenger bags with the Clash logo on them. People get Mantic miniatures in them, they order. We also had a plush mind. I'm sure you've seen the plush mind screech, right? So I've spent 6 months working with a guy in China developing the plush mind screech from its first iteration all the way through to the kind of finished model. It's a massive undertaking. My wife just says to me, why are you doing this? And I'm like, it's because I'm stupid. Right? So it's just like, it's become an obsession because I've been to Clash of Kings for over a number of years before I took it on. And I just thought, this is the premier Mantic event, right? It's the event for our game. And I love this game. I think it could be better. I think we could really make this really special. And so when I took it on the provision I could have help from really good people, and I chose people to help me, and my choices were good, and everyone has really smashed it. So each year we kind of like compete to try and make it even better. What can we have for next year? So as soon as this Clash finished, we're in our messenger group going, okay, what are we going to do next year? What's going to be what can we put in the goodie bags to make it even better? What I saw a brilliant picture on Fnatic, you might have seen it. So that we gave away these insulated water bottles with Clash of Kings on it, and there was Mark Dell was up at the top of a mountain in Switzerland with his Clash of Kings bottle. And I'm like, yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah,
right. How cool is that? So that stuff's going around the world. I love that. We have visitors from South America, from North America, from Canada, from Singapore, from Australia, from Italy, France, Spain, Poland, Austria, all over the world. So, Norway, Sweden, people from all over the world that come to Clash of Kings. So I think I love the idea that people want to come to experience the biggest tournament in the world. That's kind of what drives me.
Yeah, it really has, and that's what's so interesting. Clash has not only really become numbers-wise one of the biggest events in the world, but if you think about which tournament do the most people come from different countries, Clash is really sort of owns that distinction. Riff on that a little bit. Just these sort of, how cool is it to have Clash also be like an international hub, not just for your guys' local UK scene, but like you said, people from Europe. I knew a bunch of people from America came this year. People I didn't even realize were going until I saw pictures, and I was like, that looks like Jake Cherapika and Alex Chavez, and there's and it was just like, and then as soon as I saw those things, I will say I'm committing Rob to something even before without him. He was supposed to join us today and didn't, but I did. After seeing all these people, I was like, Rob, you and I need to make the commitment that we are going next year, and that we are going to bring a very special Countercharger award that you and I will present. But speak a little bit. I mean, it really is an international who's who of everyone who you could think in the community goes to Clash of Kings now.
100%. And I want to stop here right now and say, if if Jeremy Duval and Rob Fanoff comes, I will treat you guys like kings. I will take you guys, I will pick you up from the airport. I'll do whatever needs to be. If the Royals, because I'm not being funny, I've had Mark Zielinski present the countercharger trophy at Clash of Kings twice now. And, Zielinski's all right. But you got to have the real guys, right?
Yeah.
The real deal.
Yeah. You have like a count or a duke there. Oh, you're okay, right? Middling, he's got a little manor house he'll do. But, when you need the emperor and the first minister, or whatever. Yeah, it's time. That's why I feel like it is time. It is time.
Surely, if we can get Fanoff to commit to Clash of Kings next year, surely Croger can come as well, right? He's Mr. Moneybags. How much money does he have? He's sitting on his throne made of gold bars, wearing his money hat, when his money scarf. Surely he can splash out a little bit of those cojones. He doesn't need 15 more 3D printers. He needs to come to Clash of Kings next year, right?
And all that money from finishing the quest for the golden didgeridoo, he's got to put that money to use. But yeah, we've talked a lot about trying to get the three of us at a event together, and I think that knowing that Mark goes there too, plus you've been on the show, what we always say, once in the Countercharge family, always a part of the Countercharge family.
Yeah.
And I did have to renew my passport because I am going. We're getting ready in October. We're going on a cruise to the Caribbean, so my passport is fully ready to go. I'm really going to try to make it happen for this next year.
So you said this before, Duval. You've bought a ticket and cancelled a ticket. I'm just saying that it's on live. It's on the air now. This is recorded.
Well, yeah, and
flake it out, right?
And now that I'm a little bit more adult in my life, I think financially I have the better means, because it is a little different. Like, America is so big, right? So flying from the East Coast to the UK and flying from California to the UK, you're flying over a huge, giant country. So
it's huge.
It's an extra 5 or 6 hours plane flight. So it is. And, and in today's world, that equals whatever amount of money to do it. But, I think it's time. It will be the first Clash of 4th edition. So I think it will be a good opportunity for us as the community leaders and people who love this game system to come together. I've never been to Mantic HQ, and I've never been to Nottingham, and I'm a little fantasy kid who grew up reading about, Sherwood Forest and all those stuff. Because that's a real place, right? I could go, if I go there, I could go to Sherwood Forest, right?
You can come. So this is part of the reason we put it in Nottingham. And I think this is a huge attraction, right? And so, Jake came out. Oh, bless Jake. Poor Jake. Let's talk about poor Jake Cherepika came over and then got appendicitis after day one. I had to go to hospital. So the poor guy was in hospital day two. Missed day two because he was enjoying free healthcare. It was a real wild ride for him. He's like, that I don't have to pay for this. This is wild, right? So he was enjoying the wonderful world of free healthcare. Then saying, poor Jake. But Alex was here having a great time. Ray Shields was here from Canada. So, but yeah, Nottingham. So you have Forge World. You can go, actually see Bugman's Bar. The real kind of world of GW with people grew up with is squad. Mantic HQ is a real experience. You can meet all of the people that you've heard about and see kind of see how small Mantic HQ is, and you think, wow, this place really. See some of the amazing stuff at Mantic HQ. Warlord Games is here. There's the, Robin Hood statue, all that kind of stuff. Not far is Warwick Castle. There's Nottingham Castle is one, but Warwick Castle is the best castle in the UK. So these are all things, within shouting distance, right? You have to remember the UK is kind of there's a lot of history here, right? So, I mean, you can see an enormous amount. It's a really wonderful place. But you should bring your lady, Jeremy. Bring the GP.
Oh, yeah, the doctor. Yes, I will.
And the kids.
Well, I'll be like, honey, we should go. We'll expose the kids to different cultures, and it'll be a great experience for them to get out of the country. And I'll come.
How old are the kids? Out of interest?
7 and 10.
So perfect. So my son is 9.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well,
so tell you what, if you, this is an open offer on the air right now, but if you bring your family over, I'm very happy to commit my wife and son to entertain them. They could have a great time. They play together. This could be awesome.
Yeah. Well, and she came to Masters and it was a great experience. I was like, she's like, so what are these events like? And I'm like, well, you're going to, as Randy Davis would say, you're going to learn today. and she had a great time at Masters, just meeting everyone. And she's also just an inherently loving, caring, supportive person, which to me is a very new experience. I discovered after many years of therapy, I was dating the same type of lady over and over again, expecting different results, which they say is insanity, right? So I was like, let me find someone who's actually, and I mean, we talked when I was going through my divorce, and that was the one narrative that I heard from a lot of people was, divorce sucks. You're going to learn a lot about yourself, and your next relationship is going to be 100 times better. And that has bared to be true. I did learn a lot about myself. I had identified what I truly need and want in a partner. And so again, I know a lot of people in our community go through these events. Just know, we're here to support you, and that, things do get better, and they've gotten so much better for me. So, I mean, thank you to you. And again, I say this, thank you to everyone who was there for me during that time, because life is tough. It throws you punches you don't expect sometimes.
Yeah, come solo. So Mark's a really funny story. Mark Zelinsky, who we all know and love, right? Mark Zelinsky. So Mark's been to Clash before. He brought his wife this time because she was coming to a Jane Austen convention. And cool. I know, in Bath. And then he arrived. They had like a really long, torturous flight. And then they got a train from the airport. And, Mark's not big on trains because American trains is not a thing, right? So the trains in the UK. And then he'd booked her like a really basic hotel. And they arrived in Bath, and she was like, I don't want to stay here. I want to go back to America. And he was texting me going, Steve, I don't think I'm going to be able to come to Clash because my wife's not happy. And I'm like, oh, dude, it'll be fine. So anyway, she's had an amazing time. So sent me all these pictures of her, and she's like dressed up in the full Jane Austen kind of gear.
That's awesome.
Bath. And he's come this year. He had a great time. The brilliant thing is that I gave him so he gave me a baseball shirt, and I gave him a football shirt from when I was a kid, is Watford. And there's a brilliant picture of him at this big Jane Austen convention that she's gone to. She's dressed in the full Jane Austen gear. He's there wearing a Watford football shirt. I'm like, yes, bro, let's go. Anyway, where we got to start. Anyway, yeah, you, Rob Croger, come to Clash. Look at guys, it's the biggest tournament in terms of the international, which is the original question. Let's hark back to it. Yeah, obviously, completely thrilled. So there's no ETC for Kings of War because it doesn't really suit the ETC format. They try, but at the end of the day, I think we're not in the same world as Warhammer, right? As was back in the day, right? We may get there one day, but at the end of the day, in a way, Clash has become the ETC.
It is the international main event, right, of the year. I think. I think a lot of other tournaments are really high skill caps, like U.S. Masters. You have some big tournaments in Australia, CanCon, or their big events. But I think UK Clash of Kings, we have Adepticon, right, which is big tournaments. But I think great. UK, has really captured that this is the international marquee open event that really, does capture people from all over the world. So, I just sent a text message to the Croger and Rob that I have committed the three of us to go to UK Clash. So to start saving now.
Let's go. Actually, we have about 33%. It's about a third of the tournament is international visitors. And I think what our international visitors bring is a real sense of energy. So when you walk into Clash in the morning on Saturday, let's step back a minute because there's another aspect to it, which is because of the week we run it on. So we run it the weekend after UK school term begins at the beginning of September. So we give it a week, and it's the week after that. So next year it's likely to be 12, 13 September, right? So one of the slight side effects of that, it's Freshers Week. So we the nearest pub to where we run the tournament is a Wetherspoons. If you don't know what Wetherspoons is, it's a really basic pub brand in the UK. They have the cheapest booze.
So it's like a chain. They're
chain
like
pub
a
brand.
bunch of them. Okay.
So students love Wetherspoons because it's cheap, right?
Gotcha.
It's like half the price of anywhere, literally half the price. So you go to Wetherspoons on a Friday before Clash of Kings, it is 50% like 30 to 60-year-old nerds with massive beards sitting around with pints of ale, right? And 50% 18 to 20-year-old freshers looking really confused.
Like, what's happening?
Why does nobody have piercings? And right. So I was there, I arrived on the Friday having set up Clash to find a table with Jake Cherapika and Fred, from Norway's there, and V-Dog. The table is absolutely loaded with glasses. Apparently the Polish had just left and there was shot glasses everywhere. Vidar Hemmingby, who's V-Dog, you may remember him from Fred's podcast, right? From Epic Dwarf.
Yes.
Was there, and he was talking to me for ages, and then he'll hate me for telling me this story, but he was like, hey, he was really drunk, by the way. He was like, Steve, we played last year, and he didn't say Steve, he said, we played last year, you were so serious when we played, I can't believe it. A great game. And I was like, did we play last year? I don't remember playing you last year. He's like, yeah, no, you put it on your YouTube channel. And I was like, I put it on my channel? I really remember. He was like, yeah, I looked at him and I went, do you think I'm Andy 2D6? And he went, are you not Andy? And I was like, no, I'm Steve. And he was like, oh no. So he'd been talking to me for an hour thinking I was Andy 2D6.
Do you see any orange? Am I wearing any orange?
And it turns out we both have kind of a similar beard. I didn't have a beard last year, so he was really embarrassed, bless him. He left immediately afterwards. But so the pub was like, and there was Spanish people everywhere. It was great. So, and then you arrive at Clash of Kings, and there's this fantastic vibe. People from all different cultures are there. And it's just a really fantastic celebration of our gaming hobby, I would say. So
yeah. And one thing I noticed is a lot of groups like standing out front with their flag, from whatever country, So I really love that sort of like, like you said, we're going to go as a group from our nation. Like there was a real sense, what I gathered just from the ether of being around the event, a real sense of gamer pride and of excitement, and like you said, that real energy. Is that your sense when you're there? Just from the pictures, it feels like the event has a lot of that special sauce, like a real lot of energy flowing through the event.
It's just one of the happiest rooms, right? Given there's 3 halls, right? But there's just like 3 halls of joy. Everyone's loving it. When we have 6 games, and when was the last time we played a tournament with 6 games? It's a heavy burden of thought, but everyone is so happy. There's so few disagreements through it. Mm-hmm. When I had one check in the entire tournament about somebody's dice, right? Through the whole thing. And it turns out it was fine. The queries we get are complex rules queries. It's just a really happy, friendly room with people that are just there to have fun. And, they're a competitive people, but they're competing in a spirit of goodwill, right? There's very little rules as written kind of people. I think it's just, it's one of those, it's a combination of the game and the community, right? So we kind of self-police, people that would be difficult out of the game somewhat or to moderate their behavior, combined with a rule set that's so clear that it's very difficult to be an absolute arse. So I think a couple of times people said, I didn't enjoy that game. I didn't enjoy that game because that list was bad. And then one of the lists was, because it was 9 Abyssal Dwarf War Machines with all Black Souls. That's just a hard list to face if you're not used to it. And I get it, right? That's really hard. And one way is a guy who was just, maybe they're not as emotionally mature as others, let's say.
Yes.
And we know those people. But actually, in general, the vibe, and what's really interesting is that person, their opponent, the next game literally came to me out of nowhere and said, I just wanted to say, do you have sportsmanship awards? Because I want to nominate someone. It was that guy. And I was like, really? Well, the guy that someone just complained to me about because he was so upset by his dice? That's wild. Mm-hmm. So I think, the game system supports good play. It's a very happy room. You've got 200 gamers from around the world that all love what you love. There's 200 nerds, right? There's people that guy's wearing a crown with Trident Realm shells on it.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, the nicest room of people. It's like similar to when I listen to US Masters, right? And I love listening to US Masters. Good job on the coverage, guys. It's just fantastic. Really. And I grew up in Kings of War, listening to US Masters coverage. It just sounds like it's very similar kind of vibe, right? High level play. Everyone's having a good time. It's a meeting of minds, right? Yeah. There's a reason you guys fly so far to meet people. who are similar, playing the similar game, because it's all love in the room, right? You love playing the game. You love this game. And that's what really attracts me. And that's kind of the vibe I wanted to give to Clash of Kings. And I think we've got that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that standout of our game, which is you can have tight competitive games and also have an amazing time. And those two things are not mutually exclusive in Kings of War. They can go together. And then how is Nottingham as far as plenty of good hotels to stay at? I mean, how is it as far as like a traveling into place?
So Nottingham was a small city in the center of England, right? So you can get there from most places. So people will fly into Birmingham or London or Manchester, and then you get a train in.
Okay.
Hotel-wise, because it is Freshers Week, it's okay. We've got to deal with the venue. So the lady that manages the venue, her husband works for Holiday Inn. So this year she's arranging a special rate with us for Holiday Inn, which is pretty cool. So we're going to publish that in the new year for people to take advantage of. There's a couple of Premier Inns. There's no kind of, if you want a fancy hotel, England's not a cheap country. That's what we just say. There's plenty of Airbnbs around. It's the same as traveling to any normal city, right? So you can generally, I stay typically for the last 3 years, I've stayed in an Airbnb with 4 guys. We've got very lucky because it's a little bit out of town, but we've paid £80 for 2 nights. So was that like $110?
Yeah, that's super cheap. Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, right, for an Airbnb. Yeah. So that's very, very cheap. Premier Inn is going to be like £110 a night, £120 a night. So what, $130, which is normal kind of hotel prices. I don't know what the price for the Holiday Inn will be, but hopefully it'll be kind of slightly less than that, maybe. Plan ahead and it should be fine. If you book last minute, it will be. If you stay at Chris Walsh, the best painter in the world, tends to stay in a luxury spa hotel every year, but he's a rich guy, so he's what he wants.
Okay.
Pay your money, you get your choice, buddy. That's how it works.
Well, you mentioned a little bit on the sort of top table, but in the event itself, like what people brought, did anything stand out to you? Like, I know it's a lot of players, but list wise, was there a little bit of, hey, the edition's ending, so I'm going to take wacky stuff, or was there the tough list, medium list? Was it a variety? Or speak a little bit to what people brought this year to Clash.
Wow. So we had every list. Every army was represented, which is always a joy to see. Some less than, more than less. Only one Jarvis list. Shout out to Cybrand, my bro. I'm a big fan of Jarvis. I think there was a little bit of end of edition nonsense. But very limited. A few spam lists. Elf lists were very strong, with some of a little bit of shooting spam, but they didn't do terribly well, I would say. I think Abyssal Dwarves were a strong choice this year with they do combined arms very, very well. And that spam list I mentioned before was one of the big kind of black kind of this sucks for someone that doesn't know how to deal with it kind of lists. I think Tom Robinson's list is very much an end of version 3 you can't do this again type list. So from what I understand that level of surge will be limited in version 4. So he had 40 surge and so many zombie trolls, right? And the problem with normally you can deal with it because it's hitting on 4s. But because Tom is Tom, with 40 surge, he just has the world of options available to him. So it doesn't matter what you do, he'll think a way around it because he's so strategic. So what that gave him was the opportunity to do whatever he wanted. The perfect counter to that was Justin Gisby Clark's list. So it was the final between Justin and Tom, which was a very strong dwarf list. It was a real interesting standoff towards turn 4 in that, where Justin had just advanced forward 4 dwarf regiments just in a straight line, just straight across the board in control, to say, go on then. What are you going to do with all your zombie trolls and all your surge? Because I just got these 4 indomitable blocks. Go on then. But Tom did eventually kind of make his way forward and smash it. But that kind of like defense 6 heavy infantry build versus a super, super heavy surge list is a very version 3.5 top table type list to me.
So, we saw that at Masters, a lot of tough dwarves. Because how do you deal with surge? Is you get a big, strong line of tough guys, and you're like, come in, you're going to come in. I know you're going to come in, and I just am going to still survive. So that's like a classic, like you said, a very classic 3.5 sort of matchup.
So that's been kind of some of the aspect of it. But across the rest of it, I mean, flying's always very strong in version 3.5, right? So heavy flying lists are very difficult for newbies to deal with. If you're good at the game, they're not so much of a problem. So we just seen a huge balance of lists, really. I think it was. I didn't hear much bad feeling list wise.
Yeah.
Apart from that best dwarf list, I think. Apart from that, I think it was a really good example of the Goldilocks point we've got to. Yeah.
And if people want to watch the streaming, they can go to Death by Dragons, right? It's up there if they want to. If they haven't had a chance to watch it live, if they want to go back, is that where the streaming is available?
Yeah, I think we've really struggled with streaming here for the last few years because we've got limited Wi-Fi. But John Fawkes, Moneybags John Fawkes has really invested. I've got to be honest. The guy has done outstanding things. So he's got a camera called the Beast. With a giant positional 4K camera with a remote control, which allowed him to zoom in on aspect. You could check if the miniature's eyes were painted. It was that incredible. So I was thrilled with the high quality of the streaming coverage. The camera quality is outstanding. We had some great commentators from across the world. On day one, we had Carmack and Atkins and Rossi join us, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
And we had, my good friend Andy Hawley joining John on the stream on the second day on site. So great streaming, really good quality. Please do check it out. I think it was really good and some super high quality players. Well, we had some fantastic players from across the world there demonstrating their skills. So yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah, and to me, I love putting those on like on a hobby day, right? To put a live stream or a tournament or something on in the background while you're painting all day. And if you aren't subscribed to Death by Dragons, what are you even doing with your life? Is my question.
I mean, exactly. I mean, is there a finer channel? Who knows? Maybe the Countercharge channel also subscribe, right?
Oh yeah, we're in our infancy, but we're trying. That's one of our goals. Always been one of our reoccurring goals is try to get more involved in YouTube spaces. But definitely check out Death by Dragons. Okay, so Tom Robinson, we've already touched on champion. Did you guys give out a hobby award this year?
Yeah.
Who was the hobby winner this year?
So we have an enormous amount of hobbies. So one of the things that we really push at Clash of Kings is Mantic armies, right? So bring your Mantic army. If you bring a new Mantic, if you bring a Mantic army, you get a £10 voucher on the Mantic shop. If you bring a new Mantic army, you get a special miniature. So this year it's one of the Mantic points miniatures, and Ronnie goes around himself and hands them out, which is really nice. But so we always had a top three. So we used to have best army, best unit, best model. This year we just had top three armies, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to talk about this because I love it. In year one, after the vault was released, we had the Ronnie the Bard miniature, which we upsized and we created like a Ronnie the Bard diorama. He's in like a tavern doing Ronnie the Bard, and that was the first year hobby award. And then the first year's was won by Paul Welsh with his Night Stalker army. So we thought, wouldn't it be fun? So the next year's hobby awards were all Mind Screechers. So we upsized some Mind Screechers, and we had the top award, which Matt Gorham painted, was a Mind Screech who had murdered Ronnie the Bard. So I got a guy that I know who does 3D modeling to do a dismembered Ronnie the Bard miniature underneath him, and the Mind Screech was the top award in the same tavern. And then a Halfling guy won. Oh, what was his name? It's slipped out. I'm so sorry, whoever it was, but I forget. But anyway, someone with the Halflings army won the hobby award, so he won top army. And so this year's hobby award was an Aeronor, an upsized Aeronor who had blown up the inn with them, and it was a deflated Mind Screech underneath him. So we tried. There's like a story of the hobby award.
Cool.
Right.
So apropos for a hobby award too, that narrative. That's awesome.
So good, right? So this year, so Nick Williams in his last Kings of War event, boy, I mean, if you've been following him on Fanatics or through his Facebook, I mean, the guy has smashed the hell out of it. So he created an Empire of Dust army, weirdly using Riftforge Orc miniatures, carrying Ratkim banners. There's a story. It's not important right now. But it was one of the most beautiful armies I've ever seen. It was like OSL everywhere. Everything was modeled, and he had it was one of the most beautiful armies I've ever seen. So he won this year. We had Glenn Waring, who's the Mantic army painter. came second. Chris Walsh came third. Chris Walsh came third despite coming with an army that he won with 2 years ago, which is like, I mean, Chris is just Chris. He's just
Chris finishing third. That speaks to the depth of the of what was present, right?
Chris only came third because he won with that army 2 years ago. And like, Chris, I can't. I mean, okay, you've got like 2 new miniatures in it, but seriously, dude, I can't. He was like, I wasn't even expecting to win anything. He's such a humble guy.
Yeah.
So on top of that, we have the top 3, right? So next year is going to be EOD. So I'm really excited to try and get hold of the Shobik, like an upsized Shobik. I'm going to, Manti can do that. We kind of feel that that's not enough for a 200-person tournament. 3 awards. Why bother trying? You know, someone's going to be amazing. So we also have 5 judges awards. So I went to Adepticon, and they have those medallions. Right, I love them. In fact, I have one. It's up here. Because I won Best Painted Adepticon.
One of the best trophies in the biz. The Adepticon medals are awesome.
Oh, they're so good. I was really thrilled to win that. So I love the idea of that. So we created judges awards. So you can win these. So we go around and we select armies that we just think are cool. They don't have to be the best painted. They don't have to be, super fine technique. We just think someone's really put the effort in, and we choose 5 of those. And when we give them these medallions, which say Judges Awards. And then on top of that, we're like, that's just still not enough. There's so many armies. We go around, I love this, but it's not quite Judge Award. It's good, and I can see the effort you've put in. But okay, so we also had badges called their Outstanding Hobby Badges. We have 30 of them. So 5 per judge. And we go around and we collect together all the names of people we think have just put the effort in, deserve recognition, a good job. Right, and we go and we give those. So game 5, so we have actually in total 38 hobby awards that we give out, and we go around there. We give them, say we love what you've done. We really love your army, and people wear them as like a badge of pride. I got a hobby award, so it's always a real killer for me because every year there's someone I'm like, you didn't quite make it this year. I love what you've done, but it's not quite good enough. But it's lovely to see the joy in people's eyes as you give them. So yeah.
And it gives something people who get their juju from competing in hobby. You want to have something for them to shoot for, right? Because sometimes there may be players who are people who are so good at hobby, well, I'm pretty good, but I'm never going to beat that person. So why even try? And that's what it sounds like you're trying to recognize.
100%. So give me an example. So Nathan Cerrone came from Canada, right? Have you seen? He brought this brilliant. He flew from Canada with this. He's got this cube, this giant kind of like rectagonal cube with a Ratkin force all built inside it, like tunnelers smashing out of it, and his army fits into it. Brilliant. So he was a Judges Award winner. That was so freaking good. There was a guy called Mark Dell who built a full 28mm size Twilight Kin war galley, which his army fitted all into.
Oh, dude, so cool.
Right? Yeah. How awesome is that? So we had a long discussion, it was a really painful discussion about whether he got a Judges Award or just a hobby pin. He ended up with a hobby pin just because, he'd done it a couple of years ago. He's kind of been around the block a little bit, but also it's not just about I've built a cool display board. For me, I'm like, display boards are good. That's not your army.
Yes.
Right. So, my good friend Andy Marshall always does the most outstanding display boards. But I'm always like, how well is the army? How much is the army painted? Do I want to hit the army home or the display board home? And that's part of the difficulty. So Nick Williams, who won overall, did the most extraordinary display board, but his army was also extraordinary. Right. And that's the difference. So
and I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's good you look out for that because then the people who are traveling, who it's harder for them to bring a display board, they know their army itself is still going to be looked at. So I think that's you're trying to walk that line, right, between the two.
100%. So most of my hobby judging is done during the games. So realistically, when we do a long lunch break, which we don't really like very much, but we do a long lunch break to try and give us the time to look at armies when they're on display.
Yeah.
Inevitably, everyone wants to chat. So I'm trying to walk around looking at armies and everyone's like, hey, Steve. And I'm like, oh, yeah, how's your games going? I spend like 45 minutes talking about their games. And I'm like, I've missed I can't look at the armies now. So what I do is I go in during the games and I look at their armies while they're playing. And I think that's a far better indication of the army, because then I'm like, I love this army.
Yeah.
It might not be a beautiful display board, but I love it. I want to give, sometimes then I would write down, 100 names. You have to narrow it down to 30.
Cool. I mean, and it's important that we always talk about the tripod, right? The sportsmanship, the painting, and the gameplay of trying to find a way to support and, encourage all elements. Is there anything sports-wise you guys do around awards, or how do you encourage that at Clash, good sporting play?
So we don't have a sports award at Clash. So we had the committee that runs Clash had many discussions about sportsmanship, and our fallback is always, look, it comes down to a popularity contest, which doesn't necessarily support people who don't necessarily have the social skills, to manage it, and we don't want to support that. And also, administering a sports award for a 200-player tournament is a nightmare. It's impossible. That's impossible, right? So we don't have a sports award. What we do is at the beginning of the tournament, in my player briefing, I'm really heavily lean on be kind, right? Be kind in this tournament, because 1/3 of your opponents aren't from this country and don't speak your language, right? So it boils down to 100% of 100%. 70% of good play in Kings of War comes down to mark your units. And that sounds silly, but it absolutely does, right? If you mark your units in Kings of War, your opponent is less annoyed, right? Because if you think your opponent's shonky, it's either shonky dice or shonky movement, right? Someone can be grumpy, that's fine. They can be kind of a dour person, but if you're playing the game, it doesn't matter. Actually, if they're grumpy and they're moving their units in a kind of shonky way, then that becomes a problem. Mark your units, it goes away. That's not a problem. So we really heavily lean on mark your units, and be kind to your opponents. They may not speak the same language as you, and so we have genuinely very few disagreements at Clash on that basis. Everyone's there to have a good time. The disagreements that we do have are based on language, line of sight, or rules, right? Yeah. Like I said, one query about somebody's dice. We checked it. It was fine. Move on. So I think sportsmanship is more, I think in Warhammer in the old days, there was a bit of the bravado. And Mike Rossi taught, if you've listened to Unplugged Radio, Mike has a really unique take on what it used to be like in Warhammer, where he full two hands admits he used to be a bit of a tool.
The Northeast were the worst. They had one of the worst sportsman reputations in the old school Warhammer days. Yeah. So
it's absolutely acceptable to walk in and be an absolute tool to your opponents. Yeah. I think in the UK and in Europe, that's a different picture. It's very, I played a really famous guy from Spain called Mario Pinos, who is a really dour guy who swears an enormous amount when you play him. I played him at the end of 2nd edition. He swears through the entire game in Spanish at you, right? And I'm like, what were you saying? And he was like, saying F you, F me, F your mother, and F God, right? Like that. So, but even in that, it was a good game. We had a beer afterwards and it was all fine. Sports for us is much less about, don't be a dick, and more about just be clean. So it's more about making sure everyone is clean. I think the only player that perhaps was called out for not being clean, forgive me, was from North America this year. And so, and is known for that. So I think the cleanliness of the game speaks to the cleanliness of people's sportsmanship. Yeah.
And that's always a great way when I talk to newer players, I always say, mark your units, and then, which could be harder if they're different languages, but play a game of intention, right? This is my intention. I marked my unit. I'm moving here. My intention is that I'm this range from you. Have a dialogue with your opponent throughout the game if possible. But getting in the habit of marking your units is the quickest, easiest, and it's so easy to do, right? Just put something. There's so many different little doodads, little stuff like that. So great advice to newer players or players in general wanting to play a cleaner game. Just mark your stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Just, put a little corner marker down or a dice down. It makes everything easier. I've taken to in my games. So I have dice trays for wound markers. and I put them on the back of each unit during my opponent's turn.
Yeah.
So that when I come to move my units, I know where they were and I can bring them back. And it's made my game cleaner. It's made my game quicker, and it makes everything easier. Really, it's just such a fantastically easy thing to do. So I can't recommend that enough. When we gave out last year, not this year, we gave out undo tokens for people, like a little 90-degree undo token to every single player. And I was wandering around with the leftovers of those, handing them, just like throwing them. I felt like throwing candy to children. Have some undo tokens. It was great. So we gave some out this year as well. So it works for you.
Well, awesome. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come back on the other side. We'll talk a little bit of Clash 2026. We'll wrap up the show. So we'll be right back.
Hello, this is Duncan Rhodes from the Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy, and I hope you're about to apply a second thin coat just there whilst you're listening to Countercharge.
Hey, this is Ash Barker from GMG, and you are listening to Countercharge.
And we are back. So, Steve, I'm curious, as we enter into now the off season going to 2026, where is the best place for people to find out information about next year's Clash? Do you guys have a website, a Facebook page, or can they shoot you messages, or where should people, after they hear this, who are super excited to go to Clash next year, where can they find all the deets?
So we have a website, which is clashofkings.uk. There's no information on there right now other than the date, which is very likely to be 12th and 13th of September. It's it's 100% likely to be in Nottingham High School again. Tickets are going to go on sale in the new year. So beginning of February is when we'd like to sell them. So it's Kings of War, Clash of Kings UK is our Facebook page. But everything on there will be the information we're posting on our website, which is clashofkings.uk. I mean, what more do people want to know? So typically tickets sell out really, really quick. They sell out within 24 hours, right? So people get a bit of fear of missing out, which is fine. This year we had refunded tickets on sale right up until the event actually happened. So I would not worry over much. We will have enough tickets. The event is, we have enough space to be bigger than we were last year if we need to be. We can go up to 250 players this year at a minimum. If I need to hire another hall, I will, but I really don't want to because they're very expensive.
We're not in this. You're not in the TO running business to make any money, right?
No.
You hope you break even, or most likely your money's coming out of your pocket, but we do it because we love it. So
right, exactly right. So we try to run Clash of Kings on a break-even basis. All the money that goes to the tournament, we reinvest into cool stuff that's given to players. So players get a very generous goodie bag every single year. There is lunch provided. You can buy dinner to sit at the venue to come when you're playing games in the evening. There is breakfast available at the venue, which is good. There is a very cheap bar at the venue as well. So if you like to drink, which I'm sure no Kings of War players are interested in, there is, good. We drank once again for I'm going to say, 5th year in a row. We drank the bar dry at Clash of Kings, as in every year, Jeremy, every year I tell them, look, we like to drink. We're going to drink you out of beer. No, it'll be fine. Every single year, by the end of day 2, they're like that. We're really running low. I'm like that. No, really? Like we've run out of IPA. I'm like, really? These old guys with beards have drunk you out of IPA? What a surprise. So we're going to, we are heavily investing in ales. It will be a really, really good time. So I don't want to say, I will spam every social media channel there is, be on Fanatics and YouTube and Reddit and all of them. Come beginning of January, after New Year, after I've dealt with Masters, which is 19th of January, we're going to full into Clash of Kings. Get a ticket while you can. You can always refund them up until the end of June. Like Jeremy did last year, quitter.
Yeah, I know. Big fat one.
Exactly. But get a ticket, get stuck in. It's the biggest. When's the next time you're going to get to go to a Kings of War tournament with 200 other people just like you? This is the preeminent tournament. It's the happiest tournament in the world. People regularly say, and don't just trust me, look on Fanatics, it's the best tournament they've ever been to. You will, by game 3, you'll be playing someone exactly at your level, with a game you love, in an environment full of people. Ronnie will be there. Matt Gilbert will be there. Mantic is everywhere. It is the place to get hold of, the hottest Mantic information. It's such a... I'm hyping my own tournament, but seriously, I don't get to play here. Jeremy, how depressing is it? I'm like the biggest Mantic fan, the biggest Kings of War fan. I don't get to play at the best tournament that there is. So depressing.
It is. Oh. Well, it's what you take on yourself. For everyone else, you just bear it on you. It's your cross to bear, as they say.
I just walk around and watch. By game 4, on day 2, game 1, I'm hungover because I like to drink, and I get to watch all these people playing the game that I love. They're 4 games in. I'm like that. When do I get to play?
When's it going to be my time?
So this lovely guy from Austria, challenged me to a game after day 1. Ronnie spent so much time talking about version 4. We didn't have time to play. And I was like, dude, what's going on? If I won that game, Martin was going to pay for me to fly to Austria. I was to be playing his tournament. I'm like, what is life?
Well, man, I want to thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. One, it's great to hear about Clash, and 2, it's just great to see you. I know you and I hadn't gone on air together in a minute, so
yeah,
thanks for coming on. Make sure you're signed up to Death by Dragons. Keep a lookout for all information concerning next year's Clash. Come out with us. Like I said, I'm going to do absolutely everything. I'm going to be looking at flights. I'm going to talk with the doctor. I'm going to get it in our schedule, but I'm really excited to try to make it out for next year's Clash.
Please do. I want to say, if come out next year, you get to meet both Jeremy Duval and Robert Fanuff and Matthew Croger, all in one place in Clash of Kings in the UK. I will look after you guys. Please do come. It's such a great time.
Well, cool, Steve. Any other final thoughts or shout outs or anything else you want to say before we wrap up the show?
Oh, I just want to shout out my fellow Clash of Kings committee members. They are, the lifeblood that keeps me going. They put up with me ranting on with them literally all year about Clash of Jan and to Bob. I'll name them all now. So Jan and Bob and Matt and John and Todd and Andy, who helped us with the terrain this year, and I'm sure I've forgotten so. And Cy Brand. Who's such a legend in the game. So these guys are fantastic. We also had Nick Williams and the Smith brothers who helped us with terrain. All the people who helped us set it out, and to people who helped us pack it away. The school were just over the moon because everyone was so polite and helpful and kind. They desperately have us back. So the crew that helped us set up and put down Clash of Kings are just such great people, and I wouldn't and couldn't do it without them. And so thank you to everyone that came. And I'm sure I've forgotten someone. I forget someone who entered Mantic and to
Mrs. Steve. I imagine she's very
Christine
supportive.
Is very tolerant. So my wife is incredibly tolerant. She didn't turn up this year because it was kind of far and we had other stuff to do. But she turned up every year. But she very much tolerates our house being a dumping ground.
Chaos, right?
Huge, great stuff.
Yeah.
Just nonsense, right? She's just the most amazing person. So that's probably it. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, we always forget people, but you just know forever you will always exist within our hearts. So anyone not mentioned. Well, thanks again, Steve, for coming on. Stay tuned. We got a lot of great 4th edition coverage coming out. We got an interview coming up with Alessio and Matt. So we got a bunch of great content coming out for 4th. So stay tuned to the airways for that. And as always, remember to always keep countercharging.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Countercharge. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at counterchargepodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter @countercharge15, or by commenting on the Countercharge Kings of War podcast Facebook group. If you enjoy the show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Until next time, keep countercharging. Music is a composition of Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.